Has a game ever inspired you to face something difficult in your own life? Helped you to see your real-world struggles as heroic quests? Given you the motivation and willpower to overcome your problems? Or even just offered a safe haven to hide in for a while when the real world was too much? People play games for a lot of reasons, and while sometimes they are pure entertainment or escapism, at other times they can help us find strength or inspiration, or even give us the tools to cope with problems that seem out of our hands. Gary's life is not in a good place. Nearly 30, he's still living in his mother's basement. His mother's blind faith in a TV evangelist has led her to believe the world is about to end and throw away all her money. And the bills are unpaid. To get a job and get the bills paid, his boss will force him to do awful things. His friends seem to do nothing but party and use drugs, his nephew is having trouble at home, and his relationship with his girlfriend is in danger. When every option looks bad and he feels like there's no way out, he immerses himself in a new computer game, Legend of the Spear, where he's the hero of an epic quest to save the world. A world where turtle people on stilts run their market on the back of a dinosaur, and giant dragonfly is the mode of transportation, is just the fantastical escapism he needs. But the more he plays, the more the game starts to echo his own life. The characters are saying things he's heard people say in the real world. His daily struggles in real life are transformed into heroic deeds in the game. Even the garden in front of his house changes his character's powers depending on whether the flowers have been watered. Most games are all about agency, the idea that you are in control of everything that happens. You decide which buttons to press, which combat moves to use in a fight, which conversation options to choose, and nothing happens in a game without the player. When real life makes us feel powerless, games can give that power back to us. Legendary Gary focuses on the relationship between a life with almost no agency and a game. Gary doesn't feel like he has a choice about what's happening in his life. He's doing what he must, using what little energy he has. And interestingly, the game isn't much different. The hero, Winkali, is also just doing what he must, and the story's quite linear. Nevertheless, when you win a fight in the game, Gary gets more motivation in the real world, which allows him to feel more in control of his life and make better decisions. In the real world, Gary talks to people, and what he chooses to say can affect the outcome of the situation. When he has more motivation, he has more options for what to say. Motivation can be gained or lost by the outcomes of these conversations. He can also gain motivation by winning battles in Legend of the Spear, as well as by getting a good night's sleep each night. Video games can truly have a positive impact on our lives, but only in moderation. I really like the motivation mechanic in the game. It does a good job of illustrating how when we're not feeling well, whether we're depressed, overtired, or just in a bad mood, we can't always make the best decisions for ourselves. Conversation options you lack the motivation for will be grayed out, showing that you know what you should say, but you just don't have the strength. The combat system is also interesting. I've never encountered a system like this before. It's turn-based, but rather than actually taking turns, the PCs and NPCs carry out their actions simultaneously. The enemies choose their actions before you choose yours, however, so you always have a slight advantage. You can even rewind and go back through previous turns and make different decisions. This makes combat something like a puzzle. It can be really fun trying to figure out how to defeat all the enemies without getting hit, or running out of energy and needing to rest in a bad spot. The graphics are hand-drawn. I really like the character figures and some of the architecture, especially the castle in Legend of the Spear, but I'm not as big a fan of most of the environments and backgrounds. But that's a matter of personal preference, I think. Also a matter of preference is the lack of control options. The entire game is controlled by the mouse. This works fine for the menus and conversations, but I really disliked the click-to-walk controls and would have strongly preferred the option to use the keyboard. The pathfinding is also a bit wonky in some places, and the character takes unusual and circuitous routes sometimes. It's a minor annoyance, but I do think it could have been done better. The music is interesting. While the game creator, Evan Rogers, did almost everything in the game, including the writing, coding, and art, the music was composed by XX. I'm not at all sure how you're supposed to pronounce that, sorry. It's not the type of music you'd expect in a game like this, but it fits. So that's Legendary Gary. I can't really say more without spoiling it. Overall, I think it's a great game. It's not long and I finished it in about 3 hours, but when I finished, I immediately wanted to play again. I wanted to know if things could turn out differently if I made different choices. And without spoilers, yes, they can. Your choices do matter, and they do affect the outcome of the story. So, replayability? Check. If Legendary Gary sounds like your kind of game, you can pick it up on Steam today. Go out there and beat up some flame-throwing bumblebee guys. Just don't forget to head to bed at a reasonable time.